Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome a very, very senior and accomplished startup mentor and author from India, Dr. Aravind Chinchure. Aravind, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashutosh. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Aravind Chinchure is the CEO of Deshpande Startups. He's also the author of the book titled The New Age Organization. He has been credited with designing India's first two-year MBA course on innovation and entrepreneurship, and he's been recognized, awarded, and felicitated several times. So, Aravind, let's talk about two different things today. Number one is Deshpande Startups, and then I'd like some more general questions with you on startups. But let's talk Deshpande Startups. As India's largest incubator, tell me about your activities. And before that, a little bit about the background of Deshpande Startups.
Yes. What a pleasure and opportunity to speak to you, Ashutosh. This is an incredible honor for me to be part of this conversation. Thank you very much for this great opportunity. Deshpande Startups is a part of a Deshpande Foundation, and this foundation came into the existence sometime in the mid of 90s in US. Mm-hmm. Founder, Dr. Gururaj Deshpande, and popularly is known as Desh. Mm-hmm. Desh has been a very successful entrepreneur, investor, mm-hmm. turned philanthropist.
Okay.
So his vision for India and the world is how do we build sustainable and scalable enterprises? Mm. And his focus in India is how do we do this in the context of Bharat, mm-hmm. or in the context of non-metro region?
Correct.
Ashutosh, you know that if I look at startup ecosystem, we always think Bangalore, then our direction goes to NCR and then Mumbai. But look at the massive potential and opportunity that exists for young budding entrepreneurs from non-metro region.
Well said.
And there has to be a ecosystem to support these aspiring and budding entrepreneurs who need access to the programs, access to the investment, access to the mentors, experts, access to the technology. And there are many aspects that is required to make that entrepreneur successful and create that impact around the world. So our focus, Ashutosh, is the whole startup ecosystem around the world is focused on 2 billion people. But we are 7 billion people. There are 5 billion people in the world who need solutions. And there are 5 billion people, within these 5 billion people, there are many young, aspiring entrepreneurs who want to create a product, not only for 5 billion people, but to the 7 billion people. So this entire Deshpande Startups, this ecosystem is for those entrepreneurs who want to work for Bharat or from Bharat for the rest of the world.
How fascinating. How fascinating. And what an amazing kind of work you're doing. But for my viewers and listeners, tell me a little bit about maybe some of the startups you're funding and some of these successes.
Yes. So we have, Ashutosh, so far supported 250 plus entrepreneurs with a massive impact in terms of economics and the job and many other aspects like intellectual property, innovation. So just to give a couple of examples, 10 years back, when we began this journey, there was a young entrepreneur who wanted to do something in agriculture. So one challenge in agriculture is when the harvest happens, there has to be a sorting, grading, packaging. It's a very critical aspect for any farmer or agri-entrepreneur. So what he did, he said, can I use technology? Say, for example, can I use electromechanical and integrate this with the imaging technology. And that created a startup which is called NanoPix. The best part of NanoPix, Ashutosh, is that there were several investors around India and around the world wanted to invest. But this is a company which is revenue positive, very, very profitable, and a substantial market today in sorting and grading, for example, cashew nuts, acquired by this particular company, which is very unique when we compare to metro startup. In the metro startup, it's all about valuation game.
Yeah.
What we focus is about, how can we make a sustainably growing company which works on the profits. So this is one company that I can share from the past. In the recent, two students from Mangalore, they had a brilliant idea of creating a world-class headphone which has better experience and better quality of sound than any company in the world.
Okay.
It's called Rapture. This is a young 1-year-old company.
Yeah.
And you may not believe, Ashutosh, today they have built this headphone which has a better sound quality than the best. I don't want to take the name of the brand, best. And the best brand in the world in the sound, in audio, has invested in this company.
Amazing.
So
and are these products under the brand name of Rapture available? Yeah.
Now they're going to launch. It's called Aura. You will see next week, they have a global launch from Kickstarters and other.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So I will certainly look out for that brand, which you have helped to support. Wonderful.
So this is just an example. Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I mean, it's music to my ears when you say that you support startups with the objective of making them profitable rather than a higher value, which will come in any case in due course. But moving on, Aravind, what is the process you follow to be able to accept a new startup in your incubator?
Yes. There are two aspects, Ashutosh, that we critically look at. See, when I look at a startup, the core of the startup is founder. The founder, her idea, her solution, her vision. I think that's something which is very, very critical. So what we look at is founders. So we always say we are founder focused. We are market focused.
Okay.
And what we look at is that spark, that drive, that passion in founders. And then we bring them on board. So that's number one. And in this process, our experience, Ashutosh, has been that these are the founders who really need deep touch support. The reason for this is most of our entrepreneurs are from tier 2, tier 3, first-time entrepreneurs, but very passionate, very driven to make that impact, build that product. So our model is very different compared to the interventions that other incubators offer in Metro. We become their companion. We become their co-founder.
Okay.
And you'll be surprised to see that our companionship is so close with these entrepreneurs is that they share everything.
Okay.
Even to an extent, their personal challenges. So we need to be able to empathize. We need to be able to understand, appreciate, and help them to navigate such challenges, which could be personal. And sometimes, of course, we are there for their, successful.
Amazing. And at what stage do you look for an exit?
So our idea, Ashutosh, is we are not exit oriented. So we have two ways we look at, say, if at all exit. We have a formal program. For example, we have a program for the students. We start with the awareness. We bring them into the problem-solving capabilities, and then we do a launch pad, a pre-incubation for the students. So when students finish the program, though they're exiting from our program, but actually they become a part of our community. And our goal is to support them even next 5 years and 10 years. So some of our startups, still we are working with them even for the last 10 years. So that is from a program perspective. From an investment perspective, we have two kinds of investments. One is from a grant perspective. For example, someone has an idea, wants to convert that idea into a prototype, we give a small grants. But also we have our own investment team, which basically looks at supporting growth of that startup. It could be a investment from an equity perspective, it could be a loan, but provide them necessary capital when it is required so that they survive and they grow. And our goal is to keep supporting them, and at appropriate time we will exit. But our game is not to make more money.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Yes. So a few questions for you, which I'm sure a lot of my viewers and listeners would love to learn from you. And let me start with a basic question. When you have mentored 250 startups and invested in them, and of course must have looked at many, many more. Do you think an individual should go solo, or should she have a co-founder?
So I prefer co-founder. There are many, many reasons why we need a co-founder. See, there are huge risks associated with the startup. When we start this journey of entrepreneurship, it's a very challenging, yet exciting. In this whole process, you need co-founders who can share responsibilities, share resources, share knowledge, share the network. Now, here is not individuals' network, but co-founders' network. And that multiplies the impact. So it's always better for any entrepreneur or any startup to have at least one co-founder, if not multiple.
Okay.
Let me share one example. I'm mentoring one startup. The success of this startup is because one co-founder is a hardcore techie. He's an architect. He can build very complex products. And another co-founder is a hardcore business development. He understands what marketing is, what sales, business development, and close the deal. And that is a lethal combination that I see. One side you have a tech, one side you have a business person. They come together and they have a better probability to succeed. Fantastic. So it has to be a very strategic answer. Instead of having co-founders same in business or a technology, you have to bring the complementary skills on the table so that you succeed eventually.
Fantastic. Great response. My other question to you is that, and this must be a multi-million-dollar question, what are some of the basic mistakes, in your opinion, a lot of startup founders make?
So in my journey in the last 30 years, I have seen, say, thousands of entrepreneurs.
Correct.
At early stage and late stage. The first thing that entrepreneur makes a mistake is that their idea or a solution is the best. And they assume that the market is willing to buy their product. It's a very, very strong assumption based on which you start building your startup, which perhaps doesn't work. So it's extremely important, when we work with the entrepreneurs is, what is the problem that you are trying to solve? Has your solution validated in the market? So that's the first thing that I see a very fundamental mistake that large number of technology, engineering-based entrepreneurs do. The second biggest challenge that exists in Indian startup ecosystem is that there is a product, but most of the time the product or a solution is me too. So me too has or if there is no innovation in the product or a business model, the chances of success are very, very low, particularly in the current state of our ecosystem. So earlier we had certain Me-Too products that those products got scaled, but it doesn't. The third mistake that people or entrepreneurs do is that they know marketing, they know business. This marketing or market access is a very, very different game that one has to invest to make successful. I think these are the couple of
very important. Each one of these is very, very important, and you really articulated them well. Thank you. Correct, absolutely. The other area which a lot of startups struggle with is when should I start scaling up?
Yes.
People start saying, everyone says pan-India and global. And I keep saying that for someone who's sitting in one of the big cities of India, you got 23, 24 million people as your market just in that one city. Correct. What are your thoughts on when should a startup start to scale up?
So it's a very, very important question. See, one of the challenges today Indian startup ecosystem faces is we need startups which really, really scale. So we have huge valuations, but they have not really scaled. So we have to create those enterprises which are really, really, scaled enterprises. So if I look at, when I look at the scale, of course, we can look at the scale from, say, B2C kind of a startup or say B2B kind of a startup. But there is a cusp. Always I have seen that you start getting a traction. There is an initial excitement in the market, but suddenly you see that excitement disappears after some time or may disappear after some time. You will continue to work on various aspects of the innovation in the entire business, market and many other things. And there is a sudden jump. Suppose in case, say, for example, it's a B2C, and suddenly you see that yesterday I had, say, 10,000 users, and suddenly I'm adding 1,000 users every day. So I see there is a cusp. You see a rise, sudden rise, and that rise could be going towards exponential. And that is the time that we need massive capital, entirely different organization to cope up with this kind of a change. You need advisors, you need partners so that it truly scales.
Correct.
So I think this is where I find. Of course, in the B2B, what I have seen some of the startups that, so initially there is you have one client to another client, but suddenly you see getting inquiries, even if you are not doing your outreach. People are coming to you, or you see sudden increase in the number of inquiries and also clients, then that is the time you should see that you have a opportunity to scale. And it's very important, very critical. If you miss this opportunity, perhaps you may not get that opportunity again. So I think understanding that cusp where things are going, and then, so therefore, even startups need to be prepared. Suppose, for example, I have 1 lakh, say, users, and suddenly it goes million users in the next, say, 1 month. Is my infrastructure ready to handle this?
Correct.
So I always, share and advise entrepreneurs that when you're building your solution, ensure that you have right infrastructure and supply chain and other things so that it can really scale when there is a demand.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Aravind, I have time for 2 more questions. My next question to you is on funding.
Yes.
There is always a debate. Should I bootstrap as long as possible, or should I raise money whenever it's available? What are your thoughts?
So I prefer, maybe I'm conservative with, the age and my experience. If as a startup, you are able to generate revenues and that you can continue to sustain sustain and grow with those revenues, then it is better to go, without taking investment. And great example that I give is Zoho. Zoho is an example how they build multi-billion-dollar company without taking even $1 of investment.
Correct.
But they had a model. They had that working capital coming in, revenues coming in, so that they could scale. But there are majority of entrepreneurs where the growth of that company, sustainability of that company depends on the money that you are investing. For those startups, they must take the investment. Investment is available, because I don't want that startup should, stop their growth just because they don't have a capital.
Correct.
So don't compromise there. You need to bring in the capital when there is a need, and it depends upon the business, the sector that you are in. So because there is other side of the story in a deep tech high, when you are building a product, which is like 10 years cycle of building the product and regulation and compliances. For example, healthcare. What has happened, Ashutosh, there is they took investment because investment was available. Now, investors are demanding the growth, demanding the scale, because investment happens with the assumption that this company is going to grow multiples, and they can make, say, 5x, 10x, 30x. And that pressure from the investor changes your entire business line. So what I'm saying is that if you are able to build or create a revenue that will lead to the growth, you don't need to take an investment. But investment should not taking investment is a bad idea when you are growing and you need money and new capital. But just because capital is available, don't take it.
Well said. Well said. And my last question to you, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation, and many of them will probably be wanting to start their own businesses. Based on your vast experience, Aravind, what would you say are 3 lessons you would want our viewers and listeners to take away from our conversation?
When I look back, my journey of last, say, 4 or 5 decades. So when I was growing up, it was all about survival. We were constrained by resources. We were constrained by many, many challenges. So we were just trying to survive, our priority. But today I see that we have gone through that phase in life where there is abundance. There are so many opportunities that exist in the world. Where you don't have to think just trying to do something in the local context, but the possibility that exists is that idea that can change the world. And that possibility, that opportunity that exists today for all of us, irrespective of age and gender and so on. So my message is, here is an opportunity of your life to change the entire world. So that's the number 1. Number 2 is that something that was a scarce resource, now it is in abundance. For example, technology is available, accessible. Capital is available, accessible. Experts are available, accessible. Any this thing. So these are the 3 key ingredients that are available for any entrepreneur to build a very successful enterprise or venture. The third is that something that I saw a transformation from very, very small regions. Like, for example, we don't have to always look at the markets of say top $2 billion, 2 billion people. There's a huge potential that exists in the market that is, people, 5 billion people. And particularly look at those possibilities which are in rural, which are in agriculture, healthcare, education, where I see a huge potential for entrepreneurs. So these lessons are more from an entrepreneur, entrepreneur's perspective, not from a personal.
No, absolutely. These are fantastic lessons. And on that note, Aravind, thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for talking to me about your incredible journey of Deshpande Startups, about your learnings in the world of startups, and your amazing advice to so many viewers and listeners on startups. Thank you also for telling me about the 2 successful startups you have funded. And I look forward to looking at, trying and experimenting or understanding the brand Aura whenever it is launched. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, Ashutosh. And I'm appealing, I just want to invite everyone who are listening this particular podcast to look at Deshpande Foundation, look at Deshpande Startups. Please, contribute to this movement, new movement of startups, which is going to have a large impact on India and India's future journey, and also for creating a better world in terms of climate change and so on. So I'm inviting everyone.
Thank you. And I'm sure my viewers and listeners must have heard your comments. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.